what gets in the way of feeling fulfilled on the job? And what I discovered is there are some very real situations that have to do with managers and organizational cultures and all of the things that we know can actually negatively impact us at work. What I also found out was that we cannot necessarily change our manager. We cannot usually change our entire organizational culture. What we can do, however, is look around us and see what kind of small changes we can make to make things better, The other thing we have to do is look inside. Are we actually potentially in fact getting in the way of our own happiness because of old habits or ways of working or ways of looking at work that have gotten that maybe served us well in the past but don't serve us well anymore? I'll give you an example of one. A lot of people actually truly believe that work is not where we should seek fulfillment or happiness, that that's for some other part of our lives. No, that is an old, outdated myth. I don't think it was valid years ago. It's certainly not valid today, given how much time and energy we put into our work. Some of us have actually learned along the way that if we don't do what we think we should do in the workplace, that somehow we're going to fail. So we follow all kinds of rules about what to wear and how to dress and who to hang out with and who to stay away from that don't add up to happiness and don't help our effectiveness. I would really encourage you to think about the shoulds of life, the shoulds of work that may or may not be serving you well in the workplace. Do they help? Do they hinder you? Of course we need rules. We need rules about coming to meetings on time and all those sorts of things. We all have rules by which we live. And in the workplace, that's no different than in life. But really examine those shoulds, because if you find that you're either taking a job because you think you should, or you're staying in a job because you think you should, or you're doing things because you think you should, and those rules really don't work for you, that can lead to cynicism, resentment, and unhappiness. Another thing that gets in our way, believe it or not, is our own ambition. Ambition's great. I don't have any problem with ambition. We all want to strive to be and do our best, to seek to be excellent at what we do. That's a lovely part of being human. Most of us really do care about excellence. But I have seen too often than I can count people whose ambition has hijacked them. They run from goal to goal, from project to project, from job to job, position to position, and they don't stop to enjoy their successes. They don't stop to recognize that, in fact, they are doing a great job, and maybe they don't need to strive quite so hard. When ambition is overheated, it's a happiness trap. So ask yourself, are you running from goal to goal and not smelling the roses along the way, not enjoying and celebrating success? Are you really just running toward the future with no thought for what you're learning or where you're really going? If that's the case, it's possible that your ambition is actually getting in your way. So hold on to the most powerful parts of your ambition, your desire for excellence, and slow down and see if you can't really learn to enjoy the journey as well. The last thing I want to talk about is a tough one and really common, and in fact, guilty as charged over here, and that's what we call overwork. Overwork is just what it sounds like. It's working too much. Remember I mentioned those digital devices that we all have, those masters that call us to them at all hours of the day and night? Well, as wonderful as they are, we can find ourselves working all the time because it's right there. It's right there. You get home, you're saying hi to the kids or having a conversation with your partner, and out comes the phone. And before you know it, it's in your hand. And before you know it, you're just going to look at one email. And then you get hijacked because it's an upsetting one. And before you know it, you're not listening to your kids anymore. You're not having that conversation with your partner. Overwork is really detrimental to our health, our well-being, and our happiness. And it's only up to us to stop it. Nobody will stop that for us. The pressures in our workplace are very real. There's no question about that. We've got to find ways to build emotional boundaries around ourselves that allow us to stay healthy, well, and happy in the workplace. Which brings me to my final point, and that is about stress. Stress is a happiness killer. It truly is. And nobody's got a stress-free life. There are pressures, there are ups and downs, things happen, there's a lot of work to do. Nobody has a stress-free life. But if we find, as many of my colleagues have, and even I have over the course of my life, that stress is creeping up and up and up, and we just don't ever seem to get a break, we cannot be happy in the workplace. And we're not happy at work, we're not happy at home. So I would encourage everybody to do a stress inventory. Take a look. What are your sources of stress? What bothers you? What gets in your way? What are the problems that really make you tense up? And make some choices about whether or not you want to respond that strongly to these stimuli, to these things that are happening to you. How we respond to the stressors in our life and at work is also a choice. Now, mind you, you can get caught up, and before you know it, you're responding just sort of crazily to everything that's coming your way. It's really easy for that to happen, and yet, if we don't take control, you can find yourself really getting into trouble. So how do you know if stress is getting out of control? How do you know? It's really insidious stress. It really is. It kind of builds and builds and builds over weeks or months or years, and before you know it, you're in a bad place. There are 3 ways to take a look at yourself, 3 different aspects of your life to take a look at if you want to know whether stress is getting an upper hand. First of all, physical clues. Are you sleeping well or not? Maybe you're having that second glass of wine or even a third just to try to chill out and calm down. Or maybe you're gaining weight or losing weight or doing whatever you do when you're under a lot of pressure. Take a look at those physical clues. Listen to them. They're wake-up calls. You don't want to wait for a big wake-up call like a serious health crisis or an emotional crisis. And both of those things happen when we're under a lot of stress. So listen to your body. Listen to your body. Secondly, take a look at your emotional life. Are you overreacting to things? Do you find that maybe you're a pessimist now when you used to be an optimist? You're kind of glass half empty when you used to be glass half full? Or maybe you're snappy and kind of irritable, and that's not your normal way. Those could be clues that stress is getting to you. Listen to them. And then finally, relational clues. Are people telling you, wow, I haven't seen you in a long time, and I'd love to see you, but, where have you been? Or you're not that much fun to be around anymore. Maybe you've heard that, or maybe you've sensed it from people. Or maybe you're having some problems in relationships outside of work. By the way, that's where it starts first, outside of work. We kind of keep the game face on at work, but we let our hair down at home and get irritable and nasty with the people who love us before we do that at work. So if you want to see whether stress is getting in the way of your health, well-being, and your happiness, take a look at physical clues, emotional clues, and relational clues. Well, let's see you find some. Let's see you see some of those clues. What do you do next? What do you do? I've got a couple of suggestions. 1, find ways to incorporate reflection into your daily life. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's in the morning or in the evening. Mindfulness practices, deep breathing, being alone, reflection where you're not beating yourself up, but maybe you're focusing on what you did right today for a change. Those kind of practices make a huge difference in our ability to stay grounded, resilient, emotionally intelligent, and happy. It's not enough to wait for the weekend, and maybe you can't do it every day, but try. 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the morning, a few minutes at noon, go for a walk, eat your lunch. No, and don't just rush through it, enjoy it. Go find somebody, sit down and enjoy yourself. So reflective practices really do matter. So do things that make you feel good, like sitting down at lunch with somebody and having a nice conversation that's not about work. Building a relationship, being generous, being grateful to people for what they're giving to you, giving back before you asking people to give to you. Gratitude and generosity make